presented by Prize Picks. $100 match on your first deposit with the promo code Welcome to Light Years, a July 5th edition of Light Years. Lauri watch day 6. Andy, how's your fourth?
No end in sight, by the way. Fourth was good, man. Fourth was good. I didn't do any grilling. I'm a bad grill guy, but here's the thing. Here's my thing about July 4th and grilling. Tell me how weird I am on a scale of 1 to 10. I eat my hot dogs and hot links with no bun. I just eat it. I could put some mustard on it. That's cool. Maybe I'll throw some grilled onion
with
on
your
it.
hands?
That's cool.
Like
with my hands. I just eat it. People think I'm crazy. Yeah. Big pause. Big pause. Weirdness factor from 1 to 10. Got to be a 10, huh? You don't know anyone that does that, right? I'm the only one.
I mean, I'll eat a Lynx without the bun, but that involves a fork and a knife. I'm getting fancy, just in hand, bite it. No, not happening. Not happening. Sorry. More power to you though. Godspeed. So
Happy 4th of July. That's how I eat my hot links.
I did a bunch of grilling yesterday. It's this is how you know I'm getting fucking old. I'm like very like into trying to be the best grill master I can be.
Yeah.
People were nice about it, but probably a 7 out of 10. 6 out of 10. Like not bad, but I'll take the
what's the fanciest thing you grill? Like we're not just talking about burgers and like, are you grilling like shrimp out there? Are you grilling?
No, but I did do like a nice skirt steak, so that was pretty good. Nothing too crazy. That one actually came out better than the burgers and other stuff. Anyway,
your dad a better griller than you? Last question. Your dad a better griller than you?
No.
Oh,
he can't cook anything, so he's kitchen, grill, microwave, it's not his forte. He could fix like a car by hand or like any sort of like random around the house thing, but literally cooking, no, not at all. We're very traditional values.
Yeah, my dad, I can't do any of them. So traditional, I can't grill, can't cook, can't fix a car. The hell can I do? We could talk Lauri marketing. That's what I could do. That's what I'm good at.
That's what you do. Before we talk Lauri, we should talk about the fact that Buddy Hield became official over the holiday. We took a day off here, guys. Apologies. And we got the numbers. So Warriors are gonna get Buddy Hield. Looks at 2+1 partial guarantee, about $9 million a year. Solid business there by old Mike Dunleavy. That's what I'm gaining right here. What are your thoughts on this? I know we talked about it, so I don't want to spend too much time on it, but it's official now. We might as well talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, I know we're looking at the Woj tweet here, and I'm confused. I know this doesn't matter too much, but I'm confused because it says he has a partial guarantee on the 3rd year, but then a player option on a non-guarantee on the 4th year. That just seems like it's confusing. Is that just that like what does that even mean?
This is the new NBA. This is CJ McCollum's CBA NBA, where all the what do you call him? Like he's not a mid-level guy. Like he's a vet. He's an NBA vet. He's not star out the window, all that sort of stuff. Like guys like him, I just feel like these deals are going to get more and more complicated on paper.
Yeah,
that's my
what is
thought.
A partial, and then if he accepts the partial, he has a player option on the 4th. But anyway, it doesn't matter. He's going to be on the Warriors for 2 years. I think I'm pretty high on this pick because you look at the contract and it tells me that the Warriors don't view him as a starting player, which thank goodness, right? Thank goodness. I know that was going to be case regardless. It's nice to get that affirmed. Mm-hmm. Also, it's funny because it's technically not a traded player exception. Again, more minutia, but it's like they actually ended up not using a player exception and ended up just being a 5-team trade. Turns out trades aren't that hard.
I mean, it's both things because if it was the TPE, they would have got the TPE and then traded that for Buddy. So they just did the trade. But yeah,
instead, right? So technically, but it became a 5-team thing, which I don't know. When's the last time the Warriors were part of a 5-team trade? I don't freaking know. So it's just funny because is it like a Dunleavy thing? Is it just because necessity they got under the Oh yeah, Kirk. It's Kirk's show now. Is this his thing? So I thought it was pretty cool. So I don't know. I think it's creative. I don't know. I didn't think of this.
Kirk had his spreadsheets out. He's showing off for everyone. He's showing everyone he can match Daryl Morey with the cap
Yeah, you think
machinations and minutia. Yeah.
cap for cap, Kirk and Daryl.
You know what I think is kind of interesting? This is kind of bigger picture on it, but remember when Kevin Durant left and they were like, we have to get something. They traded for D'Lo, and their whole idea was we are going to operate above the cap. So we need to hold all these places. And you could say it worked because it got them Wiggins, and Wiggins was key in that title run. You could also say it's part of the reason that of the 5 years, 4 of them you and I would probably define as disappointing. They just had no flexibility whatsoever to do anything. So this seems like the Warriors, look, they spent all year talking optionality. Like, honestly, between like all the tech stuff you hear in the Bay Area and optionality, a little bit of an eye roll, a little bit of an internal eye roll for me. But it does appear that in this new CBA environment, if you are able to maintain flexibility, there are more deals to be had. And that seems to be where they value. You know, you don't have to pay $20 million for a Buddy. For $20 million, you can get Buddy Hield and Kyle Anderson. For 30, you can get Melton, Kyle Anderson, and Buddy Hield. Those are 3 legitimate good rotation players of different qualities. I don't know if that was the case in the pre-CBA, and I know for a fact they would have had no way to give any of these guys $8 to $12 million when they were capped out the entire way. So we'll see if the strategy works out for them, but I see where it's going.
Well, I guess optionality never meant using the CP3 contract. The optionality meant using the CP3 contract to get off of Jordan's Poole contract, get under the cap, and then the flexibility that you have under the cap. That's what optionality meant, which we never, I mean, we never thought about or because that's not what the Warriors would like. That's not what they told us, right? They told us they would spend in the tax as long as they needed, and then I'm sure Dunleavy and those guys probably knew this, like for sure going into last season. Like they just didn't want to tell us that this is what they were going to do because you're going to get a bunch of backlash if you're going to say we're just going to let that Chris Paul contract go to waste and not use that for anything. So yeah, I mean, that's what they get. If that's what they meant by optionality, I mean, it's still impressive, right? It's still impressive. 3 players for Chris Paul's $30 million. Net, it is still impressive, and I would argue 3 players for 2. If you want to say these 3 players, are they better or a wash versus Clay and Chris Paul? I think you can make an argument it's at least a wash. I think you can make a pretty strong argument.
For the 24-25 level of impact you're getting from them, yeah, I think it's a wash. I think you could argue they're better. The advanced stats say they're better for what that's worth. Advanced stats love guys like Melton because of his defense and 3-point shooting, Kyle Anderson because of his defense, and Buddy because of his 3-point shooting. So I get it. End of the day, the best version of 34-year-old Clay is still better than all these guys. But how many days are you getting that? Yep. You know, you could see the point to this. I think the CP3 thing they gave an earnest effort on, but it's one of those things where it's like, look, man, if the trade's not out there, they could pivot to this just as easily. So either way, optionality. I think the other thing that's kind of interesting when you look at this is like they now, and we've talked about this, but like it's very clear they're gearing up to make a big move. Whether it's Lauri or whether they pull off a big move, I don't know. But it seems to me like they've acquired all these role players and now they need to consolidate a bunch of their stuff, go get that big fish, Steph, Big Fish, Draymond, all the role players that fit in different ways. And that's your team for the next 2 to 3 years. And you know, give it a good go to it. So, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it.
I felt like Plan B. They probably had Plan B set up a lot better than we thought. Felt like they were in the back of their head, like, yeah, if Plan A doesn't work, which we feel like Plan A is probably not going to work 80% of the time, we're going to go right into this route. Because remember how quickly they got Melton. We're just really fast after like a
48
day
hours.
Right. Boom. We're going to get Melton for 12 mil. Like, by the way, I still to this day, I'm pretty sure someone in the front office told you that the Warriors love Melton. And that's what you did. Like, I'm kind of saying, I'm like, you just throw Anthony Melton out there 2 weeks ago and boom, right into it. They signed Melton right away. So I felt like that was their number one target.
What if I'm the secret Lake of Mole? What if all the concern trolling and secret, you know, like, oh, I don't know about this guy. What if deep down I am the one who's meant to infiltrate the fan base here.
You called them getting off of Chris Paul. You were like, oh, it's probably likely that they won't use the Chris Paul contract. I'm on sitting here like, well, they fucking better use that, right? And I'm like, they better fucking use it. And then with the Melton stuff. So look, man, I we'll get to the next part here, but I think this segment, I think, requires me to say that the Warriors, with what they've had so far, probably deserve a pretty strong grade for this offseason. At least a B. At least for what they've done. Pretty impressive.
Right now, positive. But the next move is going to determine if it's great or not. Anyway, let's pay a quick bill and get to it.
Light Years Podcast, we're brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million members. Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you gotta do, pick more or less on 2 or 6 player stat projections. Watch the winnings roll in. Got baseball in full gear. You got WNBA. You got football coming up. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into 1,000. Prize Picks available in 30 states across the country, including California, Texas, and Georgia. I made my first deposit, received an instant 2x bonus. If you have the skills, you can play for a shot at turning your $10 into 1,000. Download the Prize Pick apps today and use code LightYears for first deposit match up to $100. That's code LightYears on Prize Picks. Deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. And we're brought to you by Raycon. Raycon, you may have heard me talk about Raycon's everyday earbuds before, but now is the time to check them out because they just launched their upgraded model of the best-selling everyday earbuds. They are available in a variety of vibrant new colors to complement any and all skin tones. I got myself a purple one, pretty standard. Once they come out with a pink one or a neon one, I'll grab that one too. They got a new quick charge function. 10 minutes of charging yields 90 minutes of battery. I got some other chargers, or I got some other pods that take a lot longer than 10 minutes to charge. So 10 minutes of charging for 90 minutes, pretty good. Ergonomic design to comfortably fit the widest range of ears. Optimized gel tips for a cozy custom fit. Raycons, weatherproof and sweat resistance. So I will be using them in my workouts every day without worrying about them falling out. Raycon also offers a 30-day happiness guarantee. So what are you waiting for? Go to buyraycon.com/lightyears to get 15% off your Raycon order plus free shipping. That's right. You'll get 15% off and free shipping at buyraycon.com/lightyears. Buy Raycon, RAYCON.com/lightyears.
Cool. Yeah, go get some Raycons and definitely deposit in Prize Picks. Okay, so let's get to the Lauri stuff. That's why most people are here. So first, we're going to go with our guy Jake Fisher over at Yahoo Sports.
Lauri Markkanen. He seems like the biggest name that sort of popped up in these discussions in the aftermath of some of the big names in free agency.
He's definitely been on the list of like, go get a guy for Golden State. The Sacramento Kings, to my knowledge, earlier this week were close to a deal. I do think that based off of conversations I've had.
Really?
Utah was in a very similar situation to Brooklyn with Mikal Bridges, trying to find someone to bring in to pair with that guy to start the arrow pointing back up towards championship contention. Then instead, they got a massive offer from New York and shipped him out the door. So that sets a really nice benchmark for what Utah would want for Lauri Markkanen. Utah prefers to keep Lauri and renegotiate and extend him. They can't do that, though, until August 6th. So why not spend the next month fielding offers? Utah is conducting their business with a 10% chance they're going to move him. But you're telling me there's a chance.
All right. That's a little more pessimistic than the tone I've been hearing these days. 10% chance he gets moved. But the interesting thing there is that August 6th deadline. They can't really renegotiate it. Yeah, and Sacramento getting thrown into the mix is a little surprising. I'd been hearing San Antonio had been the team had been reported. Ultimately, not shocked. I see the value for Sac. Sac needs to get another impact player to go with Fox and Sabonis. Otherwise, they're just kind of toiling around where they are, right? So there's that. And then also to tie into it, Tony Jones of The Athletic reports Golden State has an offer on the table and it's substantial for Lauri. I think it's heavily picks-based. What complicates it is the Warriors only have 2 unprotected picks plus a protected first. to offer. That doesn't include pick swaps, but that is accurate. They can technically only trade the 2026, the 2028, 2030. They traded to get off Chris Paul, but it's protected. And they can't trade past 2031. That's a rule in the NBA. No one can trade past 2031, but they can offer swaps. Those swaps are pretty attractive. You throw it in there. So technically they could offer like 3 or 4 swaps and two total picks. Just reflecting on both those reports from credible guys, what's your first thought on it?
By the way, Mark Stein also reported the same as T. Jones. So that's another one kind of there. My first thought is are we really going to extend Lauri marketing week to Lauri marketing month? Is that what we're going to do, Samuel? We're going to sit here for a month, talk Lauri marketing. I'll do it. I'll do it all day. Because it sounds like that's what's happening. That's my first thought.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I'm reading it too. Look, based on the current way pods have gone, he might get traded right after we finish recording. But it does seem like, look, Danny Ainge is definitely the type of guy who's going to wait until he gets what he wants, good at manipulating trade value the whole way through. I would not be surprised if this drags out not just a week, but a total month in general, if not longer. So
the fear then becomes and it's kind of similar to the Klay Thompson stuff, right? You can argue, and I don't think this is the case. I don't think Klay was ever going to come back. But one could make an argument and say because the Warriors went on this wishful run to get Paul George, that Klay Thompson said, "Okay, I'm gone. I don't care what you guys do because you guys did that. I'm on the back burner. I'm leaving." I think Klay was going to leave anyway. I don't think that mattered. I think he was just saying that. I think in this situation, if you're going to sit around and wait till August to trade for Lauri Markkanen, what if Zach LaVine's gone? What if Brandon Ingram's gone? What if DeMar DeRozan's gone? Right? So what if all those guys are gone? And now you're sitting here in August and the Spurs trade those Hawks picks. And all of a sudden you're sitting there with 12 guys that you have to play and there's no consolidation trade. That's the fear.
That is the fear. So my question for you, and I threw this out on Twitter and I'll share what the voting results are right now. How long are you willing to wait? Are you willing to wait out? And we got about 2,000 votes so far. Are you willing to wait? Let's say August. Let's say the assumption here is, are you willing to wait and risk losing your shot at Ingram, LaVine? Those are maybe Kuzma. Those are the names you hear are constantly like being shopped. Are you willing to lose those? Or are you like, look, man, I give it to like the 8th or 9th and then we're pivoting?
Okay. So there's a couple, I think, different things to consider. 2 main ones. One, the guys that you can get right now aren't that good. So it's not like Ingram's a superstar. It's not like LaVine's a superstar. So you're kind of not sitting there and saying like, okay, we have to divert our attention and go get Embiid because Embiid's available. It's like, no, if they don't get Ingram, I don't think it's the end of the world. Number 2, I do think the Warriors have some leverage in that of these 3 teams, they have the most desperation of them. So I think if the Warriors bow out of the sweepstakes, I do think Danny Ainge loses leverage against, like, for example, the Spurs, who I think are going to be happy and willing to wait about. I think the Spurs are sitting there and going, I really don't care. We got Lauri. We don't. It doesn't matter to us, right? We're not going to move off these Hawks picks. So and what I'm trying to say is I think there is a point in the next couple weeks that the Warriors can go, hey, look, this is our best and last offer. If you don't like this, we're just going to go get Brandon Ingram. And you can go deal with the Kings and the Spurs where they're not that desperate, and you're not going to get Keegan Murray. Good luck, right? And again, this is Danny Ainge is probably not going to relent because he's Danny Ainge. I'm not sitting here teaching the Warriors how to negotiate, but I do think at some point the Warriors can say, hey, what if we trade Wiggins and Kuminga and get another pick or 2, and now we're getting you 4 first-round picks and 3 pick swaps, and that's the final offer. If you don't do that, fine. We're pulling it. We're going to go get Ingram. You figure out how to deal with the Spurs, who aren't really that desperate. I don't even think they even care to get Lauri, right? That's my perspective, Sam. I think there has to be a line drawn at some point, or they're just going to be waiting and they end up with no one.
I can't believe I'm going to say this because you run the risk of nothing happening and Ainge dragging this shit into next season. But I say you wait. I threw out the question on Twitter, like I said, and I just want to read a reply from our guy GSW CBA. He goes, I think everyone else mentioned as targets are a significant step down in fit and talent. Levine, Ingram, Jeremy Grant, forgot about him. Johnson, who's Johnson?
Cam Johnson.
Cam Johnson. Sorry. Wow. Whoa. Yeah, definitely a huge step down. He just, anyway, Kuzma. Okay. Anyway, the point is, yes, step down. They should definitely make calls and have alternative options, not Lauri or bust, but I don't feel like they have to press on a deal right now. I'm inclined to agree with him and run the risk that you open training camp next year with Steph and 14 role players who all expect to get 20 plus minutes and half of them are going to be unhappy because that's what would happen. That is what would happen if you enter with this roster next year. Moses Moody, DNP. Melton, you know how you wanted to play 25 minutes? It might be 17. Buddy Hield, 15. Like it's just
that's a
the
mess.
roster. It's just too many guys, not enough minutes for a bunch of guys who should play. I agree mostly because I think Lowry's underrated. I think the Utah situation has what is one of the half dozen to dozen best offensive scorers in the NBA, kind of hidden. Like, I just think he's wildly underrated, and I think he fits the Warriors so perfectly. And I'm going to make my case to you. I'm not convinced that Levine puts the Warriors over the top by any stretch of the imagination. I think they can win a title with Lauri Markkanen next to Steph and Draymond.
Yeah, I mean, that's
I'm not saying they'd be the favorite, but I'm saying that team has enough talent to get it done. And if everything comes together, they can. I'm willing to sit a little on that one because I think that highly of him. Like, I just want to put this into perspective. His scoring profile, only two players score like him who are front court players, KD and Dirk. I'm not saying he's as great as those guys or he will be as great as those guys because that's first ballot Hall of Fame, 2 of the 20 greatest of all time. Unfair thing. But I'm saying find me guys who are over 6'10", and in his case, a legit 7 feet tall, who shoot 40% on volume from 3, 58% on 2, automatic from mid-range from post, can create a little bit for themselves. Like he puts the ball in the hoop at a highly efficient clip. And I think that matters more in the playoffs than people think. I think there's this myth that the playoffs are about physicality and, post play. I'm like, yeah, you have to play defense. You have to be physical, but you also have to be able to fucking hit shots. And, like the Embiids of the world who live on the free throw line, there's a reason he falls short every playoffs.
You think Lauri Markkanen's better than Embiid? By the way, no. I'm just asking. I'm not saying that's what you're saying. Just asking.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying Lauri Markkanen is a more efficient shooter, is a more efficient scorer in a playoff setting against good teams than Embiid. Yeah, I'll say it. I think you get to game 5, 6, 7 of a good playoff series where they take away option A and option B. Give me the guy who's automatic as a shooter versus the guy who's praying for free throws.
I think
I'm gonna get roasted.
I was trying to get you there. I think Lowry's a much better fit for number 2, and Embiid's kind of a tweener, right? Embiid's a tweener where he's like a number 1, but he's not good enough to be a number 1, but he's also not really a number 2. But anyway, I think you're right. I think you've convinced me. I think you've got to wait for someone like that. Ingram and Levine just aren't that good. Like, I feel like Danny Ainge, maybe he probably calls that bluff. He's probably sitting there and saying, like, okay, go ahead, go get Ingram. Which is, I don't know. It's not a bad thing for the Warriors. I think just the real fear, though, for me is just you're sitting there and really, if you have nothing, it is an automatic wasted year. It truly, truly is. If the Warriors walk into the season with this roster as is, as happy as I am with what they've done so far, it will be an automatic wasted year because there's just no way around. I mean, you can't make a trade 3 weeks into the season, right? Like the trade you have to make is going to have to get done in the next 2 months. So
what if Jimmy Butler demands out? What if you would be
Which again, I feel like Jimmy Butler is also not great. Like I'm making your point for you. Like Jimmy Butler is also not that great of a player, right? Like he's better than Ingram and Levine, but you know, how much better is he? He's not available, right? The style that he plays isn't really great, conducive. He's not a great defender, right? He's going to get a big contract. Do you want that for the next 5 years or 4 years or whatever? So I'm actually not high on the Ingram. I mean, on the Jimmy Butler stuff, but I get it.
You think last playoffs was kind of the swan song and it's all downhill from here?
Jimmy Butler, yeah, he's not. I don't know. He's not that impressive to me. Great, do that stuff in the Eastern Conference, awesome. But it's just like, I mean, you might be right. They may just have to wait. I keep going back and looking at the offers that the Kings and the Spurs can give, and I think I'm just gonna say it. I don't think the Spurs are gonna do the Hawks picks. I just don't think they're gonna do. I don't think there's a chance. I don't think the Spurs think that they're gonna need to go that far to win this bid, and maybe it just ends up being a Warrior stare down with Danny Ainge, which is no fun. It's like freaking Scott Boras, man. Nobody wins. No, nobody wins.
It is a waiting game. You are correct. I mean, the dude's really good. That's where I'm at with it. I think I'd wait on him. I think I'm throwing out insane superlatives, and I'm going to get shit on for that, but I'm okay with that.
Well, there's really nobody else close to him that the Warriors can get, right? There's really no outside of KD. Kevin Durant's probably the only one.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, KD, Lowry's probably closer to the current version of Kevin Durant than anything, right? Like at age of 36, not the defensive force he was that when he was with the Warriors. Still a good defensive player, but not as good, not as dynamic as he was.
KD would be a perfect fit right now with this team.
Isn't that like kind of what they're going for with Lowry? Though it's like the same thing.
Right.
They're automatic from basically any spot on the floor. They can play on and off ball. They're going to rebound. In both cases, you're talking about guys who average close to 10 rebounds. Smart players. And honestly, it's the way the roster's built. You put one of those stretch guys next to Draymond. You have DeAnthony Melton, point of attack. Obviously, you have Steph doing Steph things. And then you have another wing who's tasked defensively first, but maybe plays a little offense in like a Wiggins or a Kuminga or something like that. I mean, I say you roll the dice and you wait. I think he's a very special offensive player. And I think the things he does matter more than, let's say, DeMar DeRozan, who might be a more accomplished player in terms of reputation and stuff. Like, what's he really going to do on this team? He's going to incrementally make them a couple games better. He's not going to have like a downstream effect that makes every other player better because his skill set fits perfectly.
Yeah, DeMar would be a horrific. I think Jimmy would just like a better version of DeMar. It's just not a good fit for this team if they want to win real games. But back to, I think, my original point. At some point, you've got to like, this is just going to drag, and Danny Ainge is just, I don't know. He's a very serious negotiator. I'm not saying he's unserious, but at some point there has to be a resolution. You've got to move on, and maybe you set that deadline to be August 6th. But Sam, like, what if it's August 27th?
I mean, I think.
Am I missing something? Is there other deadline here that I'm missing? Can this?
They can't negotiate. I think while I'm thinking about this right now, they probably want to get a trade done before the 6th, because if they can't extend him after the 6th, then they lose leverage.
Extend him.
Yeah, because the 6th is their
sense.
Extension deadline.
Right.
So if they know he's not going to extend, this is actually the interesting thing. If he applies leverage and says, trade me, I'm not extending no matter what, buddy. The longer it goes on, the more it turns into like an OG Pascal situation where eventually you end up selling them for less than you could have a year ago, right?
So if I were Lauri Markkanen and if I were Danny Ainge, let's just operate under the assumption he hasn't requested out. If he ends up requesting out, they probably don't want to have that public, right? Because that kills a chance of an actual trade happening, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because Danny Ainge is going to lose all leverage. So as far as we're concerned, maybe Lauri has already requested out, and that's why this all this stuff is happening. But they have to keep it hush hush, because if they don't, everyone's going to say, well, we're just going to wait. You're right.
It's
so maybe
worth
you're right.
noting.
They should wait. I think you are right? They should wait if that's the case.
It's worth noting, now that you got me thinking about it, Mikal Bridges was pushing aggressively to say, trade me to the Knicks. I don't want to go to that team. I don't want to go to that team. And then once the trade happened, then all that stuff came out. So, like, that's the other part of this whole thing. Lauri has some agency in it. He can't control the whole thing, but his people can be like, you know how the Warriors said, oh, Siakam didn't want to resign here? Maybe it's true, maybe it's not, but that's the type of thing that an agent does to get their guy to the team they want to get them to. So that's the part of this equation we don't know. Because if Lauri Markkanen wants to be a Warrior, it's gonna happen. It might take 3 weeks. It might take, and that's the other part of it. If you know he wants to be a Warrior, you definitely wait out Danny Ainge.
So let me ask you this: who do you think Lauri Markkanen wants to play with right now? Think he wants to play with De'Aaron Fox, Sabonis? Think he wants to play with Wemby, Chris Paul? Or do you think he wants to play with Steph and Draymond?
I don't think Chris Paul's in the equation, but I don't know. I could make a look.
Can you make a case for all three?
I'm looking at it through Warriors lens. Perfect fit with Steph. Sounds amazing. He might look at Steph as too old. I don't know. I'm making that case. The Sacramento Kings, okay. De'Aaron Fox is the same age as him. Maybe that's attractive. But then you look at the rest of what they have and Sabonis. I'm like, well, what are we really doing here? And then Wemby, I mean, he's going to be the best player in the league. That's alluring, but also he's like 7 years younger than you. So I don't know. I don't know. I could definitely see the logic in him wanting the Warriors, but everyone thinks differently, Yeah,
we don't know what Lauri Markkanen thinks. It's fair. If I had to guess, I'd imagine he wants to play with Steph. I mean, the allure there makes it's not like the Warriors are going up against in this situation like the Celtics, or they're going up against like the Lakers of a couple of years ago. Like they're not going up against a team that I think is super attractive for. It's like they're not even going up against the Dallas Mavericks, right? I feel like Lauri would be a pretty sweet fit on the Mavericks, right? I feel like he'd want to play there. They're going up against the Kings, who are perpetually a mess. They're going up against the Spurs, who are way in front of their timeline. They add Lauri, and what? Like, how much better are they really going to be? Feels like Lauri has been on trash teams. Is
that worth giving up like all this stuff, or do you want to play the long game, the way the Thunder are, right?
Yes, theoretically, if you're Lauri, and maybe I'm just selling, maybe I'm projecting. Like you get this.
We're both definitely selling.
Right. You're slanting right next to Steph and Draymond, and you're not doing the KD thing. You're not quote unquote right, like riding to a free championship. Like Lauri goes to the Warriors. The Warriors are still a 4 or 5 seed team. So I think if it was up to Lauri, he'd want to be a Warrior. And if you're right in saying we're like doing like 4 different leaps, like the leap is August 6th. He doesn't want to resign. He's requesting out. Number 2 leap, he wants to be a Warrior. Number 3 leap, right, is that because of that, then it makes it a better chance for the Warriors to get him. And then the final leap is that the Warriors actually want to trade first round picks, which we have not seen happen yet for a player. So if all those 4 things happen, Lauri Markkanen is a Golden State Warrior, and we will be back to find out every other day.
Appreciate everyone.